Kristi Williams. You're the founder of Black History Saturdays, a member of the Beyond Apology Tulsa Reparations Commission, and a leader of the Vernon Witness Interpretive Center that is being built right now. Thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Thank you for having me.
Look, Kristi, I have known you and watched your work for years now, and I feel like the main connecting thread has been your love for Black people, your love for memorializing Black history,
Yes.
and teaching that to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to give you a platform to amplify your work because, I mean, it's so important.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's been a long time coming. I'm happy to finally be here. But those things that you just said is really been, what I've been about for the longest. And I believe I've been consistent in that. I hope I've been. But that has been my groundwork for a very long time.
And, it's I want to get right into it, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
So like before we even get into all the different lanes you're in and how it is empowering Black Tulsa and Black America, what does it feel like to know that sometimes you don't get that local recognition until national recognition comes to you first?
Well, it used to bother me because it was like, we working so hard that, you feels that no one sees it, right? And then now there's a lot of national attention around the work. Not just myself, but others are doing, because I don't want to say I, but because it's a group of us doing this work. And what is I keep forgetting the quote, but a prophet doesn't get its something honored in its own town or whatever. I mean, that's true, but that's why you have to understand movements. I've studied like Dr. Ivor Carruthers, Ella Baker, and even with Greg Robinson has this down pat. The movement has to be bigger than the personality. And you can't get wrapped up into that, right? So you have to make sure that you're not chasing moments, but you're chasing memory. How can this work last? How can I build an infrastructure for the work? I've been the activist, right? I've been the disruptor, right? Through the Brady name change, just challenging the city, the systems, all of those things, protesting, did all of that. And we'll do it again, right? But did all of that. But with all of that work, you have to build an infrastructure, and you have to create a way to involve young folks in it. And then you have to create a way to preserve the work that you've done. So that's the way it lasts. When you think about Kwame Ture, who I love teaching about, and he says there's a difference between mobilizing and organizing.
Ooh, that's
right. And like he said, the Million Man March, people mobilized, right? They went and, said, hey, I was there. But that's all you can say is, I was there, because nothing was built from it, right? Malcolm X, he went and went everywhere speaking, but where he went when he left, a mosque was built, right? So there's a difference there. So you have to consider, what am I building? Not just the moment, who's there capturing it, but it is, how am I building an infrastructure for lasting impact? Even after I'm gone, how will the work continue? So you have to think of it in that way. And I think when you think of it that way, you don't get so upset when you see people around you in your local town not recognizing the work that you're doing. And oftentimes, when you are out in the front pages, you're kind of sometimes the work gets diluted, and you have to be careful of that too. So there's a fine line in that. So I see the value in both, but I'd rather be the one building the infrastructure and creating ways to preserve memory and build memory.
You know, you mentioned Kwame Ture,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that you mentioned that because his book Black Power,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in college, that's when I was exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was the first person in my family to go to a 4-year college,
Wow.
and you know, I didn't know anything about the Black student organizations or the Black fraternities, and so I was just this kid on a dorm floor with all these white kids,
Oh wow.
and I did experience a lot of racism,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I didn't have a community. I didn't know how to advocate for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read his book, Black Power,
Mm-hmm.
it opened up something in me because, you know, the two biggest things that I got out of that was the importance of self-identity
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, self-determination.
Absolutely.
And ever since then, that's what I've tried to do in my work, is amplify empowering Black people to recognize their self-worth
Mm-hmm.
and to give them the information and the tools to make decisions and, you know, in their communities so that they can have self-determination.
Absolutely.
And that's what you've been doing in everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to talk first about the most recent thing, which is the you know, the Vernon Interpretive Center.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at with that, and what is it all going to look like once it's completed?
Yeah, so the Vernon Witness is my church, historic Vernon A.M.E. Church. And in the basement of the church, you know, that's where people hid for 3 days during the massacre. And the basement is what survived the massacre. And that building, the church itself, absorbed the trauma literally. And it, so when you go through the basement, you'll see damage that happened from the massacre. It's still there.
I went one time and it was
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was eerie.
Yeah, and it's not just the result of the fire, but you will see the impact the bombing had on the building, and it's still there. And so what we're going to do is take that whole space, the whole downstairs of the church, and we're going to turn it into an interpretive center and museum. So Dr. Alicia Odewale, our hometown archaeologist, she did a project years ago called Mapping Greenwood, and she's found over 5,000 artifacts. Vanessa has rescued artifacts from like when BMX was built, Langston, Tulsa was built. Because
Vanessa Hall Harper, city
yes, our
councilor.
city councilor Vanessa Hall Harper. And so what we've been finding is that when we have new construction coming in Greenwood, they're finding things, right? And they're just trashing them. And so we had to be able to find a way, and we needed. That's what we'll get into beyond apology, but we're going to be working on an ordinance that's going to protect Black remains and artifacts because nationally we have NAGPRA, federal law that protects indigenous remains and artifacts that people find, but we don't have anything for Black folks. And so we're going to do that on a city level, state level, and then we're also going to be working with Robin Ruth Simmons and Cam Howard on something federal as well, and speaking to the UN on this issue. So we've already had a couple drafts done, and so we're going to be working on that. But this is why it's so important to have a space where, as we tell our stories, we'll have artifacts that's going to complement the story.
Wow.
And so that's what we're going to have in the Vernon Witness. And so the Vernon Witness is going to talk about the founder Richard Allen, who founded the AME Church, right? And then we're going to talk about how the AME pastors helped build a lot of the black towns throughout Oklahoma, and how these AME pastors also helped freedmen get on the Dawes rolls. So we have a lot
Wow.
of this documentation in history that's not being told.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about life before the massacre in Greenwood. What was the black church before the massacre? We're going to have that history there. And then we're going to touch on the massacre, but we're not going to stay on it too much because we want to talk about the rebuilding that
Mm-hmm.
often gets left out, because that's powerful. That Greenwood rebuilt by 1925 and that it was better than what it was before, right? That part needs to be told more. And then I'm going to also have a zone where we're talking about the people now who are doing the work, because I don't want to wait till people die to honor the work, but people need to see it as they come.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have soundscaping, lighting. It's going to be first class. Of the Mellon Foundation granted us $1.5 million. And we have other people involved. Standpipe Hill Strategies, with Greg Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Pfeiffer Jones, design architect, is amazing, who we've been working with. Crystal Bridges Museum.
Wow.
The list goes on. And so, an impact period. Emma Willis, she is our strategist for this project. And then we're going to have a phase 2, which we're going to be doing a capital campaign towards. We already have $2 million committed to that, and more coming that I can't talk about yet. But
Fair
we're going to
enough.
have a 3-story museum that's going to have a children's floor as well. Because how are we teaching Greenwood, the history of Greenwood, to our children,
Mm-hmm.
and just Black history, period, right? Freedmen history. We leave out the kids, so the kids are going to have an interactive piece, so they can learn the history, and so we're going to not just talk about Greenwood in the big museum,
Mm-hmm.
but all the history, the Black history in Oklahoma. And so that's going to be huge. And so that's something that I've always dreamed about doing. And we need a space to do that. And now that we'll have a space, now we can call home to
Mm-hmm.
all of our artifacts, right? That are at Notre Dame and just everywhere around the world, right?
Really?
Yes. So it's time to do that. And so that's why the Vernon Witness has been so important. And actually, Pastor Mays gave it the name, the Vernon Witness. We were trying to figure out, what can we name this.
Mm-hmm.
And Pastor Mays said, well, it's a witness. It witnessed everything, the past, the good times, the bad times, the rebuilding. It witnessed all of that. And so that was his idea, to call it the Vernon Witness, which is a powerful name for such a time as this.
Wow. I mean, I think that's incredible. I think it's incredible. And I'm so glad to hear about the support that you're getting for it.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to happen. And this sounds like a museum that is grounded in community,
Yes.
led by community, and for community.
Yes. We're going to tell our stories as we always say, Chief says it too, until the lion learns to tell its own story, the story will always glorify the hunter. So the congregation is involved. We have, and our team is amazing. Let me tell you about our team. We have Dr. Alicia Odewale, the
Mhm.
archaeologist, one of the, I always say there's only a few Black archaeologists in this country, right? And she's one of them.
Wow.
And so she's leading the preservation team. So we have Suzette, who is our archivist and anthropologist. We have John West Bay, out of John Hopkins, done work with the Smithsonian. He actually did the writing for Greenwood Rising, and that's a whole nother story because he left towards the end. But so we have him, and we just have such an amazing team of people that is doing this work. And so, like, they're working right now, researching. And we're going to have an archival room as well
Wow.
in the Vernon Witness. So now you'll be able to come and have these archives where we are actually preserving documentation and history, because that's so important. And I also want a space where people can come in a community and find out what tribes they belong to, right? Let's find it, because people come all the time. I think I had a story in my family, and I was told that my great uncle owned this shop in Greenwood, right? And so now we can actually have a database that can come and do that research right here in Vernon, and so that's important too.
And even before that, you have been building bricks of memorializing Black history.
Hmm.
You know, I want to say this is the fifth,
Fourth,
the
yeah.
fourth year. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's gonna be a fifth.
Yes.
This is the fourth year of Black History Saturdays.
Hmm.
Um, I remember, you're gonna be so mad at me when I say this because I still haven't attended the actual class besides the very first opening.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
remember the grand opening, and y'all had the press conference,
Yes.
and I covered that. I moved away from Tulsa for a time, and
Hmm.
so I just haven't been able to be
Hmm.
involved as much as I want. But seeing the progression, from when you were asking for donations from just anyone in the community who wants to support,
Hmm.
to now people coming to you asking if they can support you from around the
Hmm.
country. Teslyn Figaro, I hope I'm saying her last name right.
Figaro.
Figaro, because you can't mess with a Black woman's name now. So, Teslyn Figaro, please forgive me. She's been a great supporter of your work,
Hmm.
amplifying it. Why is Black History Saturdays so important, especially in a state that has tried so hard to erase it?
Yeah, Black history is so important. Right now there's 22 states that are restricting how Black history is being taught in public schools. Right now there's over 10,000 books that are banned across the country.
Mm.
Over 10,000. Oklahoma has a little over 100. But it's so important that we create a space where we can learn Black history. And the first year, I wanted it to really, like, I couldn't just say this is just for Black people. But the first year, I really wanted to create that space, a sacred space, so we can unlearn and then relearn our history. Because there was a lot of tears as we were learning, especially with our adults. I started out with 120 participants. Right now, I have over 300. So it's growing, and it's families coming in and learning Black history. And this year, we would do, well, the year before we did, well, actually, always since the beginning, we had pockets of archeology where Dr.
Yeah.
Odewale would come in. But now she's here permanently. And so now we have a permanent elective class for archeology. So from pre-K to adults, they're learning archeology. They're learning how our bones, artifacts, and things tell stories. And she takes it to a whole nother level. So it's really amazing. And we're at Langston, Tulsa, our new home this year at an HBCU. Thanks to Dr. Sherry Smith Keys for getting us there. And it's just been beautiful. And even our lunch, like I have free breakfast and lunch. And I have a chef that comes in who teaches Black history through food. So I have the chef give a Black history lesson about the meal that they're preparing. So I didn't just want to do like sandwiches and things like that. Last month we did the Gullah Geechee, so everyone got to experience a meal from the Gullah Geechee. So our kids and adults have had everything from jollof rice to curry chicken to
Yes.
shrimp and grits. Like they've had everything, and so I make sure that they eat good. And this is an opportunity to learn, eat, break bread all at the same time. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I'm so proud of Black History Saturdays. And I want to give a shout out to my educators, Ariel Scott, Angela Murray, Tia West, Q, Koresh Lasana, our city councilor, Vanessa Hall Harper, Dr. Dwayne Dickens. They do a amazing job at teaching Black history to this community, and they've been with me since day one. And I love them so much, and I thank people. I also want to give Teslin a shout out, Teslin Figaro, because Teslin, I always say she's kind of trained me up for this because she was not only a good friend, and I got to meet her through the Monroe Bird case years ago when Teslin lived in Oklahoma City, and Teslin lived right by the police station there.
I didn't know that.
So she fought for Monroe Bird. She fought for I can never say this man's name. The Holocaust.
Daniel
Holocaust.
Holtzclaw,
Yes.
the
Who
man
raped
who.
yes,
Mhm.
him. And so she was a huge advocate for that. And she would, oh man, she was killing the game, and just her organizing skills. And Teslin eventually started her own training called Push the Line. Now that she does online and some she does in person, but her trainings are so impactful, and I learned a lot of those organizing skills and courage from Teslin. And so I have to give her a shout out. And she's always supporting the work that Councilor Hall Harper and myself is doing here in Tulsa. And I support her work too. So, and you need people like that
Yes, you
in the
do.
corner. So she loves Black History Saturdays and she shares it, and always get people to support it as well. And we need a lot more of that too. Can't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. And oh yeah, go for it.
I just need to pause. I need to fix something on our camera.
Oh, no problem.
Oh.
Just it. When she's moving back, it's like losing. It's trying to focus on the microphone, which it always wants to do because it hates Black people.
Oh, dang racist cameras.
It is. Well, they're just so colorful.
And if I start talking too much, stop.
No.
I'll be rolling off.
Them cameras are like, I can't recognize all this melanin.
Extra lights in here. All right, I think we're good now. I was just waiting for that great answer to end. I was like, ready for it?
Still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when it comes to Black History Saturdays, how can people get tapped in right now? Where can they find info about it, and which Saturdays of the month do you host it?
Yeah, so Black History Saturdays is always on the second Saturday of each month. So it's coming up this Saturday. So if you're here, you get an opportunity to come in.
I got you. This one, I can't have you on the podcast and not show up.
Yes. So it is the second Saturday of each month. Breakfast starts at 9. Class starts at 9:30, maybe 9:40 if we get, everybody rolling. And then lunch is 12:30 and dismissal is at 2:30. So it's a whole day. And then we expanded Black History Saturdays also. So because adults wanted more, and some people just can't come and spend that Saturday time. So on the third Monday night, from 6 o'clock to about 8 o'clock at historic Vernon A.M.E. Church, I have a guest that comes in and teach a Black history lesson for adults. The last month I had Dr. Carlos Hill. He came and broke down the historical truth in the film Sinners, which he was the historical researcher for the film. And so he talked about his first conversation with Ryan Coogler and how they came up with the name Sinners, and just breaking down all those historical truths. So it was great. And then we have already started streaming those. So that way everybody can click in from wherever they are and get a Black history lesson. But if you want to, you can definitely sign up. I love for people to sign up so I can keep numbers. But you can go to blackhistorysaturdays.com to sign up, or go to the Facebook page or to the Instagram and get that information. But it's the second Saturday of each month. And on the third Monday of each month, you can get a Black history lesson at historic Vernon A.M.E. Church.
Okay, got all the bases covered.
Yes.
So there's no excuse not to pick one of those days.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna talk about Sinners, but like you bringing it up, that was just magic on film.
Yes.
Just melanin popping everywhere, and just the metaphors throughout the film for so many lessons, you know, that it was
Yes.
given. But I didn't know until your event that Oklahoma's own Dr. Carlos Hill was so influential to that film.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, just the other day, I saw someone on social media ask, who lives in Oklahoma? Or why would anyone live in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
And I wanted to do my whole thing where like I wanted to do the thing, you know, but I'm trying to not argue on social media as much anymore. But in my mind, in my heart, I'm like, I get the question. I understand from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Because the news only amplifies the worst aspects of Oklahoma.
Right.
But you are amplifying the real. You are amplifying the soul of Oklahoma. You know, this was a state that was meant to be an all black state. You know, before you know, it was meant to be a haven for indigenous people.
Yes.
You know, and it is the crossroads of so many battles happening nationally.
Oh yeah.
But for those little black boys, those little black girls who grow up only thinking about getting out of Tulsa, getting out of Oklahoma, because they don't see themselves in the greatness that we can produce.
Yes.
And so it's just like, I don't know, part of why I love doing this is like being able to amplify our greatness that is in front of us every single day that we take for granted.
Every day, you know, to be honest with you, Dion, you know, it's an internal struggle for me. There are times where I'm like, gosh, I got to get out of Tulsa. I got to get out of Oklahoma because it beats you up. And you have, I mean, it really does. And then for someone like me who's blessed to travel to different places, and when you go to different states, you see all these progressive cities doing the work, and they're not afraid to say reparations. But you say it here, you got to be careful on how you do it, even though you see some progression. Like, you know, we have a black mayor, right? But we're still being cautious about how we maneuver.
Even more so in some ways.
Right. And so it really does beat you up. When I went to Berlin for the first time with the fellowship that I'm with, and it hit me so hard when we were at the Burning Book Memorial, and this is where the Nazis burned over 20,000 books. And you see this country taking pride in overcoming the things that they've overcame, right? And I was telling a friend about this, and she said, well, you know, Germany was forced to look at it. They had to do it by law. I said, yeah, they did. But what you're seeing now, you're seeing descendants of the perpetrators who are doing what is called remembrance work. You can't walk anywhere in Berlin and not be reminded of what happened or what was there. There's a school there that we visited, and I can't say it in German. I'm not even going to try. But they call it the Yellow Brick School.
Okay.
And it was like from, I think, 6th grade to high school or something like that. But when a kid goes there, they're given a name of someone from the Holocaust. And their job the entire time they're there is to carry their story. They can't let anyone forget. So you have this name of this person. You have this person. You got to study, learn about, right? And you have to incorporate the entire time you're there ways to remember this person. When they graduate from the school, they take the brick, and their name of the Holocaust victim is on the brick, and they cement it to a wall. And the wall is huge, right? And it's growing. So when they leave, they have to cement the person's name on the brick on the wall. And so that memory, that remembrance. Now, Berlin is more of an international city, right? So in this school, you have kids from Nigeria. They're all everywhere, right? And they're participating in this remembrance work.
Right.
like I said, you can't go anywhere and not see this happening. So if you now you see these descendants of the perpetrators doing this work, right? What happens when we put in the faces of the descendants of the perpetrators here in Oklahoma,
Mm.
right? Because if they're doing that in Germany, we should be doing this here. And I just think the awareness, or I think the fear of just kind of forcing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because Germany had to do that, right? Germany had to, make them face it.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to do that. Like, I
Mhm.
don't understand why we can't take these lessons from other countries and places and apply them right here. Because even just in different cities, I remember going to Minneapolis, and I met Governor Waltz.
Mm-hmm.
And he watched me do this whole presentation with National Geographic about Black History Saturdays and why I was
What?
doing it. Yes, and this was before he was running for the VP.
Okay.
And so I remember I was excited to meet him, and when I saw him, I was, all excited. And the first thing he said to me, he said, "What the hell is wrong with the people in Oklahoma?" And so I get that a lot when I go to different places, and
Man.
so it's like I'm having to go through these things. I watched Robin Ruth Simmons when I was there in Evanston, literally give people their $25,000 for their for their reparations,
Yeah.
housing reparations, right? And I can't wait for the day that we're able to do that here. So it's like I think people just need to see what's possible, and Tulsa's just been in this bubble. And so I think elected officials in Tulsa also needs to see what it looks like when you see other people doing that work and doing it successfully. Now there are challenges, yes. Just like Evanston, they were sued eventually, right? But it didn't go anywhere. They're still handing out reparations.
So you can't be afraid to go for it.
You can't be afraid to go for it. And I think that's what we lack. I think we just lack the courage into just doing it, right? We got to just stop talking about it. We've done enough research. We've done all those things. Now it's just time to just do it. Let the chips fall where they may,
I feel like the difference. I went outside the country once, and it was Berlin. I think maybe a year after you or something like that, for a journalism conference. And same thing. I didn't get to see the burning book wall, but like you said, you couldn't go anywhere. We went on a bike ride around the city, and there were so many memorials, so many different ways to remember.
Yes.
And they're not ashamed.
No.
They're not ashamed of remembering it, and it's not about shaming anyone today.
Right.
Not even the descendants of the perpetrators.
Right.
And I feel like we can't get past the shame. It's been one of the only tools we've had as Black people to change things is to shame.
Yes.
But also the people who have the power to allow for this memory work, it just seems that the structures that be, not just in Tulsa, but anywhere, if it's going to be done, it needs to be done in a certain way.
Yes.
That doesn't upset anyone too much, and that's why I want to talk now about the Beyond Apology Commission. I know Greg Robinson and you, Kristi, were super influential in getting us to this point. So can you explain what is the Beyond Apology Commission and what is the work you're undertaking right now?
So Greg has been the mastermind really behind the whole infrastructure of Beyond Apology, and still is in a lot of ways. And Vanessa Harper, myself, during the centennial, we had a plan to create this proposal to the city council where the city would acknowledge the massacre happened, apologize, but the most important piece was to create policies that that explicitly will help Black people, right? Make a commitment to do that. That was the third thing. That was a part of that whole thing. Well, it passed unanimously. We knew then, okay, well, this is what we finna do now. So Greg put together the community engagement sessions beyond apology, where we had meetings in East Tulsa, South Tulsa, North Tulsa, West Tulsa. And we got from the community, what does repair and reparations look like to you? What do you want to see? And then we had OSU Tulsa, Dr. Tammy Moore, Landon Wolf, and oh, she's going to kill me. And I know her name. Okay, it'll come back to me, and I promise I'll make sure I say it right. But they came and they helped with that process for the data. And then Greg authored, not co-authored, the Beyond Apology report. We knew the next step in that, in which we had Robin Ruth Simmons with First Repair help us also through that process, because we kind of modeled it through that. See, people just know Robin through the housing, through the housing reparations bill that was passed in Evanston. But before that, it took her like 6 years just to get to that.
Wow.
So people forget all that groundwork and work that she put into that just to get to that. Right. And so that's where we were at, the groundwork for here in Tulsa. So we kind of modeled it with that a little bit, and she helped us all the way, been there with us since day one. As far as NARC and in Cobra as well. Been great supporters of our work with Beyond Apology. And then so we knew that the next step was to form a reparations commission. We didn't see that happening, especially, we had GT and stuff. So we was like, okay, we're just going to have to form one on our own.
I mean, you had a mayor that went on national news and said, I don't believe cash payments is going to, I don't believe penalizing Tulsans today for something they weren't involved in is the right thing to do. Completely trying to dismiss the conversation.
Yes.
At the time.
Right. And he still felt that way. He did. But I couldn't believe it when he reached out to Councilwoman Vanessa Hall Harper and said that he wants to sign an executive order to create a commission for reparations, and which we wanted to call Beyond Apology. And I still thought he was jiving. I was like, and then it was really, I was pissed too, because I was like, okay, he did this on his way out, whatever. And so when we went to the actual signing, I was like, okay. And I saw his kids there. And normally he never has had, I've been knowing GT since he was on city council, through all the Brady stuff too. And I was like, he has his children here. And I was like, what's that about? But he had his children there as he signed the executive order. And I just felt in that moment, I think he wants his kids to see he did something, right? And even though he didn't, like I say, he didn't believe that reparations was cash. I mean, he said that. He told us that. But he just felt like at least creating the commission was something. And then also there was $75,000 in the housing fund, and that we could do the housing recommendations. And we only had 3 weeks because he was out.
Yeah.
So it was like, so Greg and I, we stayed up. Now, Greg is in Ohio and Caitlin hadn't had the baby. They didn't have the baby yet, but his baby on the way, right? And we're trying to get these housing recommendations. So I had to be up at a certain time with him, the time change and all these things. And so, but we would stay up to 2 and 3 in the morning on Zoom doing these housing recommendations. And then I had to also get it to the Beyond Apology commissioners to, do it. And I had 3 weeks. So it was a lot of work. getting that in. And so we did it, right? And so here we are now. So now we're just waiting to see how we align with the Greenwood Trust, because those are different things.
I see.
But we do have active committees working. Our education committee is amazing right now. We have policy, which we're working on this ordinance, like I said, kind of to model kind of after NAGPRA, that we'll be introducing. We're actually going to have a reparations conference here in Tulsa, April 24th through the 25th. We're going to be, we'll have First Repair here. We'll have in Cobra, NAGPRA, not NAGPRA, in Cobra, and NARC, the National African American Reparations Commission. So we're going to be here doing a 2-day conference. So stay tuned for that. So those things are happening, and I'm excited about it. You know, I'm excited about it. Vanessa and I was able to get $50,000 through a grant for our commission to do that kind of work. So we're working hard behind the scenes. We don't get a lot of light, you know, but we're working, and we're putting it down. We're doing our best. The committees are doing an amazing job. We have housing and land, education, cultural identity, which is also preservation. The mass graves will now be a part of Beyond Apology, so you'll get the updates will come.
Good.
Brentum will come and do the updates through our meetings, so that way, you know, it has a place to live, basically, right? And health and wellness. We have health and wellness as well. So we're focusing on all of those things as it relates to repair and reparations, and we are definitely for the true definition of reparations and repair, which is monies coming from people and institutions who actually did the harm. That's where we're at.
Because, you know, I annoyed a reporter once. I commented on their story on Facebook about a gift that a couple from New York had given to the survivors a few years ago. It was like $1 million or something between the three of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the reporter described it as reparations. And I just politely commented, so this is a great thing, but this is actually not reparations, because reparations requires the party that harmed to be the one that is, you know, involved in the healing process.
Right.
You know, she didn't like that. She was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock anybody doing a good thing. I'm not trying to knock it.
Yeah, generosity is not reparations.
Right. It's important to know the difference.
It's so important to know the difference. And a lot of times when I get people like that, you know, I say, let me give you an example of reparations. Reparations is when the white gun store who gave all the guns to the white mob to kill Black people in Tulsa, and the city made sure they were made whole. That's reparations. You know, but generosity is just something that people do from the kindness of their heart. Great, we'll accept generosity, but it is not reparations. And that's why we not only have to preserve history, right? But we also have to, and protect our history, but we also have to protect the language around our history. So now you see people using the words like investment to replace reparations. And you see this in a lot of, you know, especially more red places, but you start to see them put different words in places that takes away from that. And
dilutes.
Yes. So when I hear investment, I'm like, my dog whistle, I hear it as a dog whistle, like, what is, you know? So and we have to watch out for those things, because that's what's happening. And you see it a lot. You see it a lot now. So now that I said that to you, you're going to start seeing it. You're going to start recognizing it when you hear people, oh, we're going to make this investment.
I mean, to be real, even the Greenwood Trust has had to kind of be very careful in its messaging. It's a private trust. It does not require taxpayer funds going into it, because they wanted to make sure it succeeds and doesn't get a backlash.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like you explained how in Evanston they were sued, but they just kept going. Like even Trump, when he put out that DEI executive order, all these companies folded.
Yes.
These universities in Oklahoma folded. The University of Oklahoma closed its DEI office.
Yes.
It closed a women's resource office for women who needed that. And months later, the court struck down the DEI executive order. You know?
Yes, that happens, and that's what I'm saying. So, and to be fair, I know the Greenwood Trust it's a new model of what they're working on is different, but it's not reparations, and I know it is difficult to create something and call it reparations in Tulsa, right? I get it, but I mean it's two different things. But it is a new model that they're working on. And so we'll see how it goes. But you're definitely right. When Trump did the DEI thing and then now the court threw it out, everybody folded before, and these things should set examples as to, you keep moving. Because there are people who will still fund you. You may lose some, but you will gain some. And so I think people are also paying attention. Look,
hold up.
But people, I think are kind of, learning now. It's going to take these kind of things that we just need to show them these things, these examples. That was a great example of what you gave, and just saying this is what happened. And people are going to remember the people who folded and the ones who didn't.
Absolutely.
Because Trump is not going to always be in office, right? What's going to happen when we get someone else, right? He's not always going to be there. So people will remember the ones who folded and the ones who didn't. But I do believe you build it and they come, but you have to build it together. I do believe in shared leadership. And that's a model that we just kind of don't do here so well. But I do believe in that because that's how it's going to last and be strong.
As someone not from Tulsa, who is, I'm a descendant of freedmen, but who is not from Greenwood, I'm grateful to people in the community like you who have, welcomed me, because I guess, you've developed trust that I'm here for the right reasons and here because I want to amplify the work, not because I want to use the name or catapult to something else, which does happen a lot in a place like Tulsa.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not from Tulsa. I'm from Philadelphia. My mother is from here. My mother was the first Black woman to graduate from Owasso High School in 1961. Ooh. And when she graduated, before she graduated, she said the guidance counselor called her in and said, what are your career path? And how they try to help you decide what you want to do. And they told her that she could either be a nurse or a maid. And my mom said, I'm not going to be either one of those things. So my mom joined the Army in 1961. And so this one was when the whole Selma thing was going down. And she has some great stories and horrifying stories of things that happened to her at Owasso High School. But my mom, when she joined the Army, she met my dad. And my dad is from Philly. So they were married for 26 years. And when they divorced, we came here to live because my mom's family was still here. But when I was younger, we would come here a lot and we would go stay with my Aunt Janie, my mom's aunt. So she's my great aunt. But she would always tell us about this time in Tulsa, and she was saying where white folks were killing black folks. And my sister and I thought she was absolutely nuts. We did. We thought she was crazy because she had this floor model TV. I know a lot of people don't remember those, but she had this floor model.
Like with the
color.
antennas?
Well, yeah, but it was it looked like a piece of furniture. They were the
Oh,
floor
yeah.
model, yeah.
I remember.
And she had a brand new color one, but she kept the settings in black and white. And my sister and I, we would, like want to watch Scooby Doo in color, and we would say, "Can you make it, play the color?" And she would say, "That color ruined your eyes." So, we thought she was just crazy. So we never believed the story she would tell us, right? And we're also Creek Freedman descendants too. So I heard a lot of those stories, which were actually true. Like I heard about white guardians before I learned what it was about, right? But it wasn't until my sister is a year older than me. And so when she went to Edison High School, and she came home one day and she said, my teacher is telling us about the race riot. That's what we called it at that time because we didn't know any better. It was race riot, and she said, and her name is Miss Gates. My teacher's teacher was my sister's teacher was Eddie Faye Gates. Right. So she would come home and tell me all these stories. She was like, Aunt Janie wasn't crazy. So, we have this story, like we said, Aunt Janie wasn't crazy because we started to learn. And then one day in the house, the TV was on, and it was Johnny Cochran, Charles Ogletree, and Eddie Faye Gates. And they were, and all these survivors, and they were, talking about everything Aunt Janie talked about. And so it hit me like a ton of bricks. And so when kids our age was going to the football games and baseball games, used to be a Y on the corner that used to have like these little team parties, and we would go to that. But we were going to town hall meetings and city council, trying to just find out everything we could to fill in the gaps, and just like, so I've always had Aunt Janie with me, through all of this work. And so saying all that to say, I'm not from here either, Dion, but it's a call that you get when you're hearing these stories. And just with you being Freedman descendant too,
Cherokee
you
Freedman.
have so there's a story there. Those ancestors are pulling on you, right, to continue to tell that story. And so it doesn't matter if you're from here or not. Are you called to be here to tell that story? And I thank you for the work that you've done, and never let that deter you, because it's only one Dion.
Well, there's Deion Sanders. There's a few of us out there, but I get what you're saying.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. And it's so incredibly wild. Like when we think about our journeys in life, because I had no idea what a freedman was. I had no idea that the 5 tribes had enslaved Black people until I started writing about it here in Tulsa. And it was really just a few years ago that my granny, everybody has someone in their family that says, "Oh yeah, we had some Cherokee blood or something that down the line."
Yes.
Don't nobody pay attention to that because everybody
Right.
says that. But when I found out that, oh yeah, your granny grew up in Bartlesville, and then I'm speaking with members of the Cherokee Nation who can pinpoint freedmen communities, and then I'm finding out that my granny's granny is on the Dawes roll, and then I'm
Wow.
finding out that I am a descendant, and I'm going through the process right now of getting for citizenship. It did something to me because who were these people? What did they go through? And like their names are not in the books. Their names are forgotten, and I want to honor them by, first of all, knowing my history, but then being able to I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, but like I cried when I found out, because it's like they die a second time when we forget them.
Yes. That's so powerful, Dion. Yes, they do. And that's why memory work is so important. And we forget that. Like, we is so important. And I've always called Greenwood the Valley of the Dry Bones,
Mm.
like in Ezekiel, and then the bones are crying out. But all of Oklahoma is, because there's so much Black history throughout Oklahoma that no one's talking about. And the freedmen literally built an entire political system. They built communities, churches, schools that were funded. You know, see, we talk about, yes, Oklahoma had 55 Black townships that were incorporated, but we don't talk about the Black tribal towns that were not incorporated, and they were just as powerful. And so that's the kind of history that we need to talk about and preserve and teach. And that's what I'm doing at Black History Saturdays. Like, I love to have Eli when he comes in and teaches, you know, all of those things. It's so much history that has not been documented and being made aware of. So yes, they've died twice, they've died 3 times, but there is a resurrection, and we have to resurrect them.
I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Kristi Williams, founder of Black History Saturdays, leader of the Vernon Witness. Thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Thank you, thank you. I want to also say,
please.
and you'll have to have Vanessa on, soon, Vanessa Hall Harper, but we toured the Moton hospital the other day, and it is so beautiful. And I'm just so proud of my city councilor for making that happen.
Yeah. It's turning into an entrepreneurship hub, right?
Yes, and the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge is in there.
What?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
It is beautiful, and it's a drive-through too. So you'll be able to go drive through, get your coffee, come on to work. Yes, so it's going to be amazing. The ribbon cutting is April 30th. But it's so beautiful in there, Dion. But just to, you know, when you hear, like, I know, because Vanessa will say, we're gonna do this, and you don't think it's going to happen. You know, like, I remember before she was a city councilor, and we were fighting for the park, BC Franklin Park, because they're going to tear the rec center down. And they did at 3 a.m. while we slept, because we was like, we're going to chain ourselves to the bulldozers. So they did it while we slept. And Vanessa told this whole community, she said, we're going to build our own park, you know. And after that, I said, Vanessa, why did you tell them that? We can't build, how we going to build a park? And she said, we're going to Google it. And we did. And we ended up redoing BC Franklin Park. So if you ever been over there,
I have.
Yeah, it's a whole Black Wall Street theme playground, all that. We had the Thunders involved for the basketball court. And we did that before she was a city councilor. And then when she did decide to run for city council, she was like, we're in her kitchen, and she said, I'm going to run for city council, and you're going to be my campaign manager. And I said, I've never been a campaign manager. And she said, I've never been a city council, but we're going to Google it. And so, here we are. But she does that a lot. Even like the grocery store. I've had that conversation. We're going to Google it. And Oasis happening. People don't realize that she was the one instrumental in making that happen. First Black-owned grocery store. And now we have Moton, you know, Jim, the Greenwood Entrepreneurial Hub at Moton. And it's just beautiful. And she was able to get $4 million from the city. Tulsa County gave $1 million. TEDC, you know, did the rest. So it's like a little over $9 million investment, and it is stunning. And so I just had to talk about that to say these are some of the things. The Black Wall Street Chamber will have a office there. We're still going to office at Spirit. Now we'll have the Historic Room at Main Street office there as well. So yeah, it's just going to be amazing. So you'll have to have her on to talk about the other great things that's coming that I can't say right now. But there are other great things that is coming to District 1, and I'm super excited about it. So shout out to my city councilor.
I would love to bring her on.
Yes.
And Councilor Hall Harper, for me, is one of the few examples of unapologetically fighting for your community.
Yes.
And you know, when critics say that people who do that are less effective,
Yes.
everything you just described shows the impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She knows what she's talking about. You know, right now she's been doubling down on Partner Tulsa, because you know when we did the whole Kirkpatrick Greenwood project there, the community came out in dozens of those meetings. I remember seeing you at some of those. So, and saying what they wanted. And Partner Tulsa said that we would have an advisory board, right, of community members. We get to pick, the community gets to pick who's going to serve on that advisory board. Well, we went to it was a private meeting at the library. And this was just a few months back, and I didn't have an invitation, but I was with Vanessa, so I was able to go. And then they showed the 5 people that they picked, and Vanessa said, "Wait a minute, you said the community was going to be able to pick who's going to serve on this advisory board," and they said, "Well, we left 4 seats," and Vanessa said, "That's bullshit. The 5 seats is the majority." So you're, you know, so this is how they're doing us. And I don't understand why they just can't go back. That's what she's asking. Partner Tulsa, go back. Do it the right way. Let the community pick those seats. Let them pick the seats. Just make it right.
They can do that.
Right. And so they're not. And that's the thing. Why are they not? So Vanessa's holding them accountable for that, and holding their feet to the fire. And so, yes, they have different projects, but it's still the same people that are doing that. And so it's important that we are aware of that. Council Hall Harper has a petition going on. It's a lot of the churches has signed on to it. She has letters from Greg Robinson, from Ronald Stewart. People are just coming on saying they support her in this effort. And so we do need people to support our counselor, because she knows what she's talking about. She's actually the only city councilor we've had in District 1 to actually have a degree in political science and pre-law. So she knows what she know, you know. And so she really does have the community's interests always. That's a priority for her. And the fact that they go around her, Partner Tulsa, is not right.
Yeah.
And so that, you know.
I think part of it is they fear Black power. They want to control, contain Black power to fit their agenda that they're already working on. You know, and now that I'm a free agent, it's my podcast. I can say what I want. Partner Tulsa tried to get me to be basically a massager of their message. You know, they reached out to me after that contentious meeting that there was several contentious meetings, but the one you might have saw me at, they blamed me for like causing the tension because of a story I wrote, letting the people know this meeting is happening because this, and this, you should show up. And I was just giving people the information, but you know, they felt like, and a member of the Partner Tulsa literally said, "Yeah, why'd you do this to us?" I'm like, bro, I'm giving them the information. They were mad before I wrote that article.
Wow.
And then afterwards, they reached out to me, had a coffee with me, and tried to ask if I would kind of facilitate some type of town hall, and, you know, where they're coming to the community to explain themselves. But at the end of the day, they don't want you to lead.
Right.
They want you to get on board.
Exactly. They're checking the box. And
you can tell them I said it.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's what they're doing. And now they're finding other Black organizations to do exactly what they wanted you to do.
Well, I support what Councilor Hall Harper is doing. District 1 clearly supports her because she's been reelected how many times now?
Ooh, since 2016.
Wow.
Yes.
She's one of the longest serving councilors right now.
Almost. I think Jack Henderson. I think.
I mean, like of the current councilors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is
they
true.
just
That's
can't get
true.
rid of
They
her.
can't. The community loves her, and thank God. And then her Saving Our Homes project was good too, because that's helping to pay people's property taxes. And so she's helped people in North Tulsa who were behind in property taxes save their homes, and that's the Save Our Home initiative
Wow.
as well. So Vanessa's done some great things, and she needs to talk about it more too.
Yes.
And yeah, so I'm excited. I wish City Council was more than 2 years, because it's every 2 years, so we're always like, so yeah.
Well, Kristi, if you want to put in a word, I would love to have Counselor Hall Harper on the podcast.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm so grateful to you for gracing us with your wisdom and the impact that you're already making. And I'm just excited to see the impact that continues to build. And I can't wait for the day that the 3-story museum opens.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a few tears shed.
There's going to be some tears. There's going to be some tears. So, and you're always welcome to come and see where we're at, what we're doing. And I'll make sure that Vanessa gets on here. And I appreciate you. And you just keep doing what you're doing, and stay true to it, and lead with your heart.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kristi.
Thank you.